Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann. I am a professional network marketer. I'm an actor, and I'm also an EFT practitioner. And today I'm joined by business coach, Jill Minton. Hi,
Thank
Jill.
you. Hi, Julie. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
It's really great to see you.
You too. Across the pond.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember exactly where you are. Is it Wisconsin?
I'm in Kansas City. So right on the border of Kansas and Missouri, but I'm in the US. So
fabulous. Okay, so you describe yourself as a former corporate executive that chased a crazy dream that started at a farmer's market and grew into a multi-million-dollar brand. So tell us about that dream and, you know, how it all began and how you actually managed to transform that into a reality.
Yeah. So that part of my life story really started. So I will never forget this morning, we were on our way to church, my family in the car. I had two little kids at the time who are now 13 and 15, but at the time they were like 3 and 5. And we were on our way to church and I fell asleep in the car and it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, like there's something wrong. Like I just got out of bed. There's no reason I should be this exhausted. Like, yes, I'm a mom. I am an IT consultant. I traveled all the time, worked all the time. I just knew I should not be feeling like this. I should not be able to not stay awake. And so that morning I was like in church praying, like I've got to figure this out. And so started going to doctor after doctor and getting test after test, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And finally a doctor suggested celiac disease. And I had never heard of it, didn't know what it was. And so turns out my dad, my daughter, my sister, we all have celiac disease. It's hereditary. And basically what it is, it's an autoimmune disease. And anytime your body is exposed to gluten, it attacks itself. And once it does that, once it learns to do that, it can never unlearn to do that. So the only cure is to just never eat gluten again. So, gluten's found in like cookies and cakes, and it's barley, wheat, rye, and malt. So anything that has that in it, you basically can't eat it anymore. So completely transformed. I mean, I'd always been into health and nutrition, but just completely transformed the way we were living and renovated our kitchen, renovated how we were cooking, and couldn't believe how incredible we all felt. And so it just lit a fire inside of me to figure out a way. I started noticing people walking around who looked like I felt. And I was like, I just felt like so many people are missing the nutrition piece. And so wanted to do something with it. And so started dreaming and putting the pieces and parts together. And I was like, I want to build something that's like fast and convenient, but it's clean, healthy meals, and it's juicing, and it's all these clean, healthy, nourishing options. And so started putting the pieces and parts together, and ended up, at the time I was working for one of the big 4 consulting firms. And so I decided, I kept my job up until 2 weeks before we opened, but we took the concept the summer before we opened. We took the concept to the farmer's market, and we call it the summer from hell because we got up. I mean, we would stay. So I was traveling a lot for work, and we had 2 little kids. So would get in Friday, would stay up all Friday night getting ready for the farmer's market, be at the farmer's market by like 5 a.m. and be there all day. And it's 100 and some degree heat, out there, just like sharing our juices and sharing our clean, healthy meal, our clean, healthy snacks, and set up there all summer just to see kind of before we jumped off the cliff, like, is there really some viability to this? And so spent that summer just talking to people. And we were in Kansas City, which is kind of like a steak and potatoes, is what we would call it, town. So people aren't going to be into that, but we ended up getting a huge following, and people really were interested in what we were doing. And so decided we wanted to go ahead and open a spot. And so we downsized our life. We sold our big brand new house. We sold our big brand new car, our Yukon, and moved into a tiny little house and needed everything fixed. And because I knew the odds, I knew the investment, like I come from an accounting background, so kind of knew what we were up against. So we resized our life to make it happen and opened our first location in 2013 here in Kansas City, and just took off. It just, the community embraced us and supported us and visited us, and it just took off. And so we ended up opening 5 locations within a few years, and just, again, blew it up into a multi-million-dollar business. And it was pretty cool because we had one of our locations was like our 3rd or 4th location. I'm trying to think of the order. It was our 4th location. Our 4th location was in a prime kind of area of Kansas City. And so we had, when people would come to do concerts, we had celebrities coming in the store, like Selena Gomez, I don't know if you know, and we heard Justin Timberlake got some of our stuff at the big Sprint Center in town when he was in town. And then we started feeding all of the Major League Baseball teams that came to town. So we fed the Royals for 3 seasons, and then every visiting team, we would feed them in the dugout too. So we got to do some really cool things, and people were really rallying behind our brand, and it was just an amazing ride. And so then we decided, okay, we want to keep going. We want to keep growing. So we brought on some partners, and our partner selection was not the right choice. And at the same time, I was getting pretty burnt out. I mean, I was just working around the clock, and, with 70 some employees, and the stores are open 7 days a week, and they open at, 6:30 in the morning and close at 9 at night. Like and just all the moving parts of food and equipment and employees. And I was just kind of working around the clock. And so I wanted help. And so we brought on these partners, ended up being, not the right partner mix, and basically decimated our business in a year. This business that we built so we brought them in year 6. Well, it was year 5. We brought them in year 5, and just decimated our business. And so it was heart-wrenching. It was everything awful that you can imagine. And by the time I kind of realized what was going on, which I kind of had this feeling, but I didn't really know. And so by the time I kind of figured out what was going on, it was too late, and there wasn't much else I could do. So anyway, we went through this horrible experience and let our business go. We sold it. And then now just been rallying back behind that whole whirlwind, and looking back, like, yes, it was an awful experience, but an incredible ride that I am so glad we went on, and so glad we built. And like, had it all played out the way, I think if it had played out the way originally planned, I think I probably would have, my kids were getting older, and I would have been traveling all over the country opening stores, and I wouldn't have been here for any of it. I'd have bought off on the ride that I'm building for my family, I'm building for us, and I would have missed out on all the things that really matter. And so in hindsight, looking back now, I can see kind of maybe why things unfolded. And so now just using my experience through that, and through building it, and through that journey, just to help other women who are like, I want to build something. I'm in corporate America. I'm miserable. I want to build something for my family. I want to build something I enjoy. That's become my mission. And it's lit another fire in me to help other women who are just wanting to build something, but don't know where to start or need the support, because it's scary and it's hard, and you put yourself out there, and, not everyone is kind when you're public. So just being that for other women who are, wanting to build something. So
Amazing
that's,
story.
Sorry.
Amazing story. And you could have chosen
thanks.
to feel resentful and kind of not pick yourself up. Actually that touches on something that I wanted to bring up, which is something you say about yourself. You say you're a persevering professional that is accustomed to overcoming obstacles to get results. Now, clearly, that's an illustration of overcoming that obstacle. Yeah. So where did you get that drive and determination from, Jill?
That's a good question. I think I've always been, if you ask my parents, they would tell you I've always been a determined kid, would never take no for an answer. So, I think inherently you have some of those skills, and then I think the biggest thing to finding your fire that picks you up when you're at the bottom is finding something you are convicted about, finding something that either fires you up because you're angry about it, or fires you up because you're excited about it. Like finding and connecting with a problem or an issue or a person that you want to help, because most of the time it's something you've been through yourself. And I think that's why we're all here. It's like, we're all here to help each other, And so if I can save somebody from going through what I went through, or somebody make their ride just a little bit easier, I think that's what it's about, And so I think just finding that, perseverance and that grit is connecting with some purpose that just fires you up. And when you can really get convicted on it and let yourself marinate in it and get convicted on it, there's no stopping you. If you can just, and I talk about this because when we used to talk about this with our employees, we were first opening, it was T-Loft is what it was called. I would tell our employees, I'm like, you don't know, because you don't know if that cell in that orange juice that you just juiced fought off a cancer cell in somebody. Like, let's take honor and pride in that. Like, you don't, we're putting this out there to help people, to nourish people, to make people feel good. Like, let's not discount that. Let's remember that every time we're making a product, every time we're passing a product over the counter, like, so reconnecting with that regularly to be like, that was our mission. Like, I wanted to help people who had no energy and were miserable and saw no way out, and didn't realize that if I just changed my nutrition piece, like how much they could change their life. And so I just think, people can find their conviction and their grit and their perseverance if they can connect with something that just fires them up and pulls you through those hard times. And it's about having a vision. And I've been talking a lot about this over the past, as we close out this crazy last year and kick off this next year, been talking a ton about having a vision. And so much of that vision is getting convicted about a mission and a vision for your life. And I think it's so interesting. So this psychologist did this study, and they watched the brain waves. They monitored and observed the brain waves of person they were studying. And so they did it for a variety of people, and they watched them and they said, okay, think about yourself. And they watched the brain activity. And then they said, okay, think about a stranger, watch the brain activity. And then they said, think about yourself 10 years from now. And they watched the brain activity. And for most people, the brain activity, when they thought about themselves from 10 years from now, was that equivalent of when they thought about a stranger. And so what they were saying is, no wonder we make, not wise financial choices or eating choices or exercise choices today, because we think of ourselves as a stranger in 10 years. So it's like, throw the problem over the fence and that person has to deal with it in 10 years. And so it's about getting convicted on like your vision for your life in, let's say 10 years, in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years, so that that person isn't a stranger. That person, what you want for that person, what conviction you want for that person. So you make the choices today. You make the sales calls, you make the healthy food choices, you get up and do the workout because you want to take care of that person in 10 years. And so it's like connecting with that vision, and it just gets me so fired up, people just, and it doesn't, just like taking that time to like really think about it and let yourself dream and let yourself imagine what you want your life to look like. And it can pull you through. I mean, I talk about, it was a really dark time, and I'm proud that I never went to too dark of places. But I think a huge piece of that was, I was like, okay, having a bigger vision for my life. And, that didn't change. That hasn't changed. We went through this horrible experience. Most of it was amazing. And yes, the end was a horrible experience, but having this greater vision of being like, that hasn't changed. Like, I still want amazing relationships with my family. I still want financial freedom. I still want this bigger vision for my life. My trajectory, my path has obviously taken a little bit different turn, but that vision hasn't changed. And, having a vision like just instills hope and excitement and can get you through some of the darkest of times. So
absolutely. And it's who you become on that journey, isn't it? If it was so easy, we wouldn't grow into this person that we've always wanted to be.
Exactly. Yes. And just the compassion you get from going through something yourself, just the compassion that builds in you for somebody else who's going through something, you don't get that if you haven't lived. I mean, you may be compassionate and care about people, but you really can connect and help when you've gone through it. And so I just think, it's why we go through trials, so we can understand and help others.
Absolutely. And it's only with that benefit of hindsight, isn't it, that we can really see.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to look back and go, okay, this is what, this is what we could have done. Yeah. This is why. Yeah. Yeah.
So was going through the devastation of your first business, was that the biggest challenge that you've ever had to face, would you say?
Yeah. There's been stuff in life, but as I would say, yeah, for sure. I can't complain too much about I've had a great family. I've got a great marriage. I've got great kids. I've, been blessed in so many ways. And, for sure. And I think why it feels so big is, and why a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of accomplished people like yourselves is, you know, we can get caught in this worth and this validation of this external accomplishment and success. And when that becomes such a big piece of who you are, which is a lesson also, it feels really, really traumatic to you when that is ruined, you know? And so that's the lesson too, is that, you know, when things happen outside, like you have to reconnect with okay, when all that's stripped away, like who are you and what matters? And, you know, how can you be a better person because of it? When this thing you hung your hat on, we all use our identities in some way. We identify as something. And so when that's stripped away and you're forced to reevaluate, who am I and what am I worth and why am I here? And, you know, I think you just kind of strip away that forever, a little bit, a piece of identifying so much on the outside. I feel like it's stripped away forever, because you know what it's like to have it stripped away.
Yeah.
So you have to connect with that stuff inside.
Absolutely. If you identify with your job or and then it disappears, then what? Yeah. So one of the things I really like about you, Jill, apart from your determination and your passion, is your sense of humor. So, you know, you love having fun. So how important would you say it is to have fun in your business?
Oh gosh, everything. I mean, it resonates through your team. It resonates at home. And I mean, if you can't enjoy, I mean, what's it all worth if you can't enjoy it? You know, because it's the day to day you're living. Like if you can't laugh your way through like your day to day life. And sometimes I think it's also about just like stepping outside and looking at us as humans, like the funny things we do, the funny things we get caught up in, the funny things we think are important. Like, you know, you can't help but laugh at you can't help but laugh at all of us sometimes.
I know, I'm laughing now because I've just had a knock on the door and I know it's the delivery man and I'm not getting up. Anyway, so I know that obviously now you help women build 6-figure businesses and up. You actually say about yourself, you say you help people take the leap and launch the business and life of their dreams. So how about you just expand on that for us?
Yeah. I think so many times it's like when you're thinking about making this huge decision and changing your life and changing changing the trajectory, or like leaving the stable job and building something else, or trying to do it in conjunction, like, but you're so scared of what people are going to say, what people are going to think, what people, you know, anyone's going to respond. Is anybody going to show up? Is anybody going to buy anything? Like taking that leap. I like to equate it to you're standing, like your 5-year-old self or your 4-year-old self, whatever, standing on the edge of a diving board and so scared to jump in the pool. You're so scared to just take that jump in. And because of the unknown, you know, am I going to die? Am I going to drown? My mom's right there. She's right there ready to catch me, or my dad. And, but I'm so scared to just jump off the diving board. And I'm like, if you can just be that, you know, for me to be that encourager, that coach in the water saying, just come, just come. Like the wall is right there. You can swim right to it. I promise. I got you. Like, let me support you and help you to get there. And, so just helping people like get through that hard when you're just standing on the edge and you're like, I know I want it so bad. I remember so many nights like laying awake and being like, what am I doing? I've got 2 little kids. Like, what am I doing? Like putting it all on the line. Is this really what's made for me? Am I really supposed to do this? Are you sure? And being so scared. And thank God I took the leap. And it's not easy. You know, building a business is not easy. I'll be the first to tell you that, but I think if you really connect with your reason, and if it's always about solving someone else's problem, serving someone else, I just feel like if you continue in that mindset and go back to that place, like you can't help but have people respond. You know, when you get to that genuine place of, I just want to help somebody, you can't help but have customers that, you know, want to be there and want to be helped, you know, genuinely wanting to help someone.
And it's got to be about more than the money, hasn't it? You know, it really has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because In the beginning, there may not be any money, and there's going to be days when you don't care about the money because you are so tired.
Yeah.
And you're so worn out. Yeah, I think, it's always got to be, like I said, that internal conviction and that bigger vision, like having that vision. How does this play out into the rest of my life? And I always say, like, I would say this to myself, but how do you know, how can you chart the course if you don't know your coordinates? Like, how can you know where you're headed if you don't know where you want to go? And again, just getting conviction on that bigger picture so that all this day to day, these hard times, these scary times are all just a piece to get you there, another step to get you there.
Yeah. And having someone to help you be accountable, that's the thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to keep you on track. And,
Right.
and also, however scary it all is, it's one step after one step, isn't it always, no matter what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. And when you're in the trenches, to have somebody to be like, yep, this is how it is, but it's okay. It's not going to be like this tomorrow. Today it hurts and it's hard, but it's not going to be like tomorrow. Just keep going. Just keep going. Like, to have somebody down there with you that's been there and is like, I think that, and the accountability piece, but also just the person shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip saying, you got this. You just keep going. You've got this. This is normal. Keep going, to get you through that hard journey some days.
And I guess that's why, you're the perfect coach, because you have been through it and you know both sides of it, and you're up again, So
Yeah.
if there's a woman watching, Jill, who maybe has just started their business, or they're thinking about starting a business, but right now, they're not at the stage where they could work with you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. I would say, obviously, and I hate to keep saying this, but like, really do the soul work about, what is my mission? What am I convicted on? What do I really want? Make that pull you, make it so big, it pulls you. And a lot of that is personal development. A lot of that is journaling. A lot of that is quiet time, silencing your mind and just trying to listen what's made for you. And then putting a plan together. Like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And maybe if you're like, I still need a little more confirmation or validation, I always say, like, take it to the farmer's market, take it to do a little trial run. I mean, in all my training and coaching, that I talk about that so much because it was so big for us. Like, I needed that confirmation before I could leave my big fancy job. I needed that confirmation there was going to be something on the other side. And so for me, it was taking it to the farmer's market and talking to people and learning. And that is invaluable. If you can set up a little pop-up shop online, if you can go do some consulting side work, freelance it, something to test out what you're wanting to do and see how it feels. We talk about this all the time, like our kids in school, they often go through all the schooling, they get out, they go to the job and they're like, not what I thought, like, you have the option right now to, in some way, test run your idea and see how it fits. And then, yeah, I like this pair of jeans. I don't like this pair of jeans. Like, this works or this doesn't work. Like, if there's some way for you to do a little trial run and get super convicted, and personal development. I mean, there's so much stuff on podcasts and YouTube and books, and pouring into yourself, because when you are standing on that diving board and wanting to you are so vulnerable. You're so vulnerable. It's like, protect your spirit, build your spirit, because it's such a vulnerable time in your life and you're running all this stuff in your head. I mean, you're your biggest critic standing up there, everyone else is cheering you on. Just do it. And you're in your head. And I feel like when you're wanting to start something, people know, most people are like, yes, do it, support, and then in your head, you're going, what if I look stupid? What if I'm not good at this? The truth is, you're probably not going to be good in the beginning, and that's okay. But you're never going to get good if you don't ever, it's like our kids at sports. You're not going to be good if you don't practice, so you've got to just start practicing.
Yeah,
So
great
that'd be
advice. And talking of podcasts, clearly, you're an extraordinarily busy woman. You've got a family as well, and yet you started a podcast.
Yeah.
Learning to leap. So whatever made you decide to do that?
Again, it was about helping people who are wanting to take the leap and are just scared. And so I'm talking through, some of my own personal development stuff and issues in life, and then also interviewing business owners who have made it on the other side, who have, and it's so fascinating to hear their stories about where they started and then sold their businesses for multi-millions of dollars, you know, and to hear what was your first office like? And, you know, this one guy that I talked to was talking about, he's like, I sold the product, and he sold his business. I think it was like 300 million. I think he sold his business for. Anyway, he was talking about, he sold his product before it even existed. So he was making sales, and he was still in the process of like starting to build his product, and he was selling it for like next year. Like, just hearing their fascinating stories, and they have all the same fears and all the same trepidation as everyone does, but they persevered through it. And they have all the same, you know, face the same critics, face the same hardships, but just kept going. And so it's fascinating to hear their stories.
Yeah, brilliant. So I know you've regularly been a guest speaker, you've appeared in the media on numerous occasions, you've won awards. I mean, you've had so many achievements in your career, haven't you? But of all the amazing things that you've done, what are you most proud of, Jill?
That's a good question too. You know, honestly, I think I probably wouldn't have been as public with our business, except like people wanted to hear the story. And so then I started sharing the story, and people wanted to hear more of the story. So then I started sharing the story. Like, I think I'm more comfortable, like probably being behind the scenes, but there's something that pulls me to like share, because I feel like it's just needs to be done. But probably what I'm most proud about is that, you know, through it all, our kids like have been watching, they've been a part of it all. They came up to the stores and cut oranges. They were there at 5 o'clock in the morning before school started, you know, and they've been the bird on the wall through it all. You know, they've seen us work so hard and persevere and find joy. And, I'm most proud that they got to observe and watch that, because I hope I have faith that in their life it will serve them forever. You know, just watching this unfold and watching, because my husband was in the business with me too. I mean, I started, and then he left his job and joined because it started to get so big, and you know, they watched it, and just being able to give them that, and being able for them to see that, how that works, you know. And how we work together, and how we overcome. And so I'm most proud that I was able to, I guess, give them that view.
Yeah, and how you can work together as, you know, husband and wife,
Yeah.
and then not work together and still have an extraordinary relationship. I mean, that in itself is quite an achievement, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And I give all the credit to my husband. He's a saint.
Fabulous. So why would someone work with you specifically, Jill?
Yeah. I mean, I think I am for someone who's scared, who is nervous, who wants someone who's actually done it, who's actually built it, who's actually been through the trenches, who's actually, and the other thing is, it's just, the business sense. So what I did before, we built T-Loft was, I was an IT consultant. We were in large publicly traded companies. We were analyzing their operations and figuring out how they worked, and just getting to see large publicly traded companies from the inside out, like, gave such a business acumen, before we ever built. And I think that's attributes a huge thing of why T-Loft was successful, was able to take a lot of that knowledge and experience and apply it to a food service world when we had no food service experience, you know? So I think, you know, I love working with people who are determined, ambitious, and just want somebody that has been through it, that gets business, that gets fundamentals, and wants a huge cheerleader. I guess that's what I am. And somebody who's willing to work, you know, that's who I love to work with, is just someone who's like, and like being a good student, because it's hard sometimes to be a student, to take advice or take feedback, you know? So that's who I love to work with.
Fantastic. So how would someone find out about you, Jill?
Yeah. I'm most active on Instagram, which is Jill, JILL_ Minton, MINTON. So JILL_ MINTON. On Instagram is probably where I'm most active. But again, I've got a website. It's jillminton.me. So you can find me there. Feel free to reach out and message me. I love hearing people's stories, or if you just need support, like that's what I'm here for. And then if you sign up on my website, you can sign up for my email newsletters, and I send stuff out occasionally just with encouragement and stories and resources to help people who are trying to build the journey. So
fabulous.
And obviously the podcast too.
Yeah, and I'll put all your links with this video so people can just click through and find you.
Yeah.
So just finally, last question. What would you really like to be remembered for?
Oh gosh. Okay. At the end of the day, so Stephen Covey, I'm a huge Stephen Covey fan. I don't even know who he is, big personal development guy. He passed away now, but he always talks about begin with the end in mind. And so he has you go through this exercise of like writing your eulogy. And so when I think about that, like what is important to me is that my kids saw me as a loving, caring, determined mother, and my husband saw me as a loving, endearing wife. Those are the two most important things, that no matter what, I don't care about millions of dollars. I don't like, that is what's most important to me. And then to the people that I get to work with, I hope that I want to be remembered as being one of the most genuine, supportive and encouraging people that they've ever worked with. Like genuinely honest and caring. Like that to me means the most in my work relationships. So
fabulous. I can genuinely say, Jill Minton, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.